I now want to turn to our panel discussion. We're going to focus on the new rules for the resilient workforce. I'm delighted to have with me dynamic HR leaders from very different industries, very different countries and cultures. And in this session, we're going to learn what these leaders are doing to support their employees during these challenging times and what they're thinking about for the future. Today, I'm joined by Carmen Cerdan, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer of RIA Financial. Welcome, Carmen. And I'm joined by Geir Olaf Liesel, who is the Deputy Secretary General and Director of Organizational Development for the Norwegian Refugee Council. So welcome, Geir.
Thank you.
And finally, our fourth panelist is Thijs van Loon, who is the HR Director for Reward and People Experience at Vodafone Ziggo. So thanks for joining me to all four of you. We're really privileged to have four fantastic customers with us today. And let's just jump right into it. And Carmen, I want to start with you. First of all, do we agree with what we just heard? Do we agree that mental health for our employees is critical to building a resilient workforce? And assuming you agree, can you share with us what you think have been the different challenges of your staff being stuck in remote locations or in the field, whether it's in stores or other facilities? Is this something that's important to you and your organization? And we even had a question in the Q&A earlier asking if there's something specific you do to support the families of your employees, if you have children who are being educated at home or other elder care that's taking place in the house. So a lot of questions all rolled into one, but the theme is the same.
Okay. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I agree that the COVID pandemic has profoundly affected all aspects of the society, and including mental health, of course. And actually, I think we can even speak, or let's call it a second pandemic, right? Because the mental health implications of the global health crisis, political unrest, the economic uncertainty, the unemployment rising, the social isolation, and you mentioned the remote work and the housekeeping, etc. Well, it's like a burden. So obviously, it affects. It affects the health of our employees. So at first, when the first wave came, it's true that we focused very quickly. It was so new for us to have 100% of people working remotely that we tried to address that. We checked in immediately. But then it has we have come to a kind of normalcy, and then but we need to keep on checking this balance. And I agree with what the speakers were saying. This coronavirus is shining light on flows that existed before the COVID-19. So, but before it was like something like private from the employees. We used to say like, that sounds like a personal problem, or leave your personal problems at the door. And today I think, and the before the pandemic, the well-being activities were seen more like a nice to have or something more within the comfort zone. Today, it's a must, I think, if we want not only to increase the engagement, but also the sense of belonging to the organization. So I think it shouldn't be a taboo anymore in the workplace. Here in our company, we have to differentiate between those who are working on the field and who have keep on working on that. They had other fears, very more objective fears. When the streets were empty, they still needed to go out working. So there was a security problem that we needed to address. And then little by little, with surveys, etc., to gauge the mental health of our people, we've seen that the surveys say that the fear or the self-isolation of people is becoming more and more difficult to bear. So definitely we have made an action plan that we're still reviewing to check if it's working. So yeah, definitely it has become one critical thing in our policy, in our HR policy. Just one thing, because it's very important and it's very typical from our company, but I think it's also related to the activities perhaps of the other organization. We've seen a special perhaps issue, or we've witnessed special issue with foreign workers who are separated from their families. Now they can't return working, so they have an additional stress, and knowing that the majority of our workers are foreigners, it's something that is very important, and sometimes we tend to forget about it, but it's something we need to address especially for them.
Thank you, Carmen. And I think this is relevant to not just your organization, but Geir, also to your organization, where you have a dispersed workforce in remote locations. So share with us your view, what in your view is critical to building a resilient workforce, and what are some of the challenges that you're seeing with some of your staff in the field?
Thank you, Azar. No, absolutely. We are, of course, working in some of the world's most conflict-ridden hotspots, and so we are not new to crisis nor mental health challenges, and we feel that we were pretty well set up with support services for our staff ahead of the pandemic. Of course, the pandemic turned everything upside down. Basically because a lot of our existing preparedness measures were not relevant anymore. I mean, we couldn't move people. Typically, we evacuate. We give access to quality premium healthcare locally. We give people R&Rs to recuperate. We ensure that people can visit family, etc. Suddenly, we had people locked down in pretty remote locations. So it really turned the whole mental health support situation upside down. And I just want to support the speakers that we listened to earlier, that really sort of that whole issue about connectivity is really the key when it comes to supporting people on the mental health issue. Both connection between people, colleagues, managers, etc., but also connectivity in the sense, in a more technological sense, is that, you know, it's really through technology that we have, in many ways, the only means to be able to reach out to colleagues, to family, and so on. And lastly, I think there is one issue that is that we often not think about, and that is, you know, we have 14,000 humanitarian workers around the world, and they're passionate about the jobs, they're passionate about helping displaced people. And suddenly, with the COVID-19 limitations, the lockdowns, the not no longer able to move around, they're not able to do their work. They're not able to succeed in delivering our mission and to sort of to deliver their passion. And so for us, it's also been a lot about enabling people, both through stepping up as managers, but also using technology to enable them to continue to deliver on their passion and our mission. I think that's really been an important bit.
I think that's very helpful, Geir. And your point about technology, I want to address in a separate question. So Thijs, maybe I'll just ask you to share with us as well, what are some of the foundational steps that VodafoneZiggo has been taking on this topic around taking care of people and building a resilient workforce?
So we address this as a wicked problem rather than a tame problem, where you, as our Prime Minister said a few weeks ago, we always have to take 100% of the decisions with 50% of the information. And we said to ourselves, so everything we do must be in line with our purpose, and the purpose of VodafoneZiggo, network cable operator in the Netherlands, is that we, progress and enjoyment with every connection. So we are an essential service, and we basically have to keep our organization running. So the first thing we did is that all the almost 1,500 help desk personnel could work from home. So that was the first thing we did to make sure that they could continue to do their work safely. All office staff was being placed at home as well. They already had the equipment to do that. And later we also looked at our engineers that have to go home to make sure that they are safe, that they can do their work in a safe environment. And in the same is for the shops. We stopped sales, but we said you can still go to the shop, but then for support requests. So no unnecessary traffic in the shops. That was our first concern, to make sure that people can do their work in a safe environment. Second, when it became clear that the situation wasn't for a few weeks, but was going to be quite longer, we looked at basically the mental health. And when you look at mental health, I think that this is not a standalone thing. You always have to look at financial health, social fitness, being connected to work, being connected, staying connected to your colleagues. It's about physical health. And when financial health, for example, we had a COVID response fund because we knew that people, we would continue our work, but there were many partners of our employees who were out of a job and didn't survive. We raised a COVID response fund where people could ask for financial aid. We had a financial coaching. We organized. We made sure that stayed connected with webinars from a television studio that we have. We organized small meetings because at the end of the day you are in a team. So with your team members, we use Teams. So you have a team meeting with your colleagues and to share experiences, to share concerns, etc., etc. So these are the things that we did, and always we set our values and our purpose. We do this, and then that's the end situation. Because just like earlier was being said, we didn't know exactly how people got infected. We had some information, so you constantly have to be in touch with your colleagues and explaining them what to do and how to gather our information, and explaining them then what measures we take. And we massively communicated to our staff how we addressed.
Thijs, sorry to interrupt you, but for some reason the sound is cutting in and out quite a bit. I don't know what the issue is.
And do something about it. So if you go to another question, then...
Yeah, no problem. So actually, this is a good segue, because at this point, first of all of your input is so valuable to our audience, and you may not be able to tell, but they're asking lots of questions. Each of you touched a little bit on digital. So let me start again with you, Carmen. Can you share with us some examples of how you're leveraging technology within this crisis? Has there been an acceleration around adopting certain technologies or digital processes? We also had some questions in the Q&A. What are some of the tools that you're providing or driving adoption for to accelerate people's use of technology in the absence of being able to come to the office? One person was asking, I have a job that has to be done live. I don't have a choice. So what are some tools I can use? So maybe you can think about those things in your answer. Carmen, I'll start with you.
Well, technology has been essential to fully continue to work and to embrace remote working solutions. We have implemented a few. I have to admit that we're still learning from all the capabilities that technology can do to help us. To start with, it's true that 5 or even 2 years ago, the switch to working remotely, 100% of people were in the office, would have been impossible. And this is thanks to the new tools that have already been implemented, and that we were a bit ignorant about them, a bit lazy perhaps to learn about them. Now we have fully embraced them. So all the communications tools that were not so frequently used or not installed in all the computers, not for everyone, now is like, I mean, it's something that has become part of our lives. We have different chats, of course, not only email. So in there, I think we have touched a point of not return. Remote work has come to stay, perhaps not as before, where we're all commuting at this crazy rhythm we had, but definitely I think technology is without it we couldn't have been continuing with our lives. So now people are working. very happy at the beginning, and still today. But I think that we need to continue working, as I was saying before, in communicating, in acting with transparency from the company, in creating this action plan, which includes, of course, I mean, from information about how to work in a safely manner at home, about well, positions, doing exercise, etc. So people, and also information about the company. It's all it goes all in the direction of reminding people that they belong to something, that they are working for something that we are building all together, which is kind of intangible sometimes and difficult to convey, but we're getting used to that. We're thinking about, obviously, some apps that exist in the market for the well-being. For the moment, we have done that quite in the classic way, but to offer, for example, mental health services, therapies online, or also all our sports clubs that are going online and challenging, I mean, sharing challenges all together. So it's just not just something related to work, but also something more fun, like dressing contests for Halloween, or the virtual toast that we plan to do at Christmas, things like that. So it's all related to that, and also we are training, we are incorporating in all the trainings for the managers this this part of the mental health. So as leaders, I would say, at all levels, need to put the mental health on the table as any other aspect of the related to work that we didn't use to mention before. So, well, I would say that we are in the learning curve to get adapted, and to even to take more benefit than of technology than we were doing before. But in my opinion, technology is important and is critical in these circumstances, but it's not all. So it's important also to create clear boundaries between work, personal time, because there is so much confusion. And I'm speaking also in my own experience, so I can empathize with all these people that were saying the survey they are working extra hours. Of course, we are working extra hours, and it looks like what we thought was good to avoid commuting and wasting time in other things. Now we are using that for work. So it's also important.
One question that we got in the Q&A actually on this topic was, our people aren't taking time off. You know, my wife's complaint to me is, you don't have a 1 hour commute anymore, so you're just working 2 more hours a day because you're dressed at the same time, ready to go, which is unfortunately true. The question in the Q&A was, are you doing anything specific to remind people to take breaks or to take time off? I know here at Oracle, for instance, we have 100 emails reminding us to take, we've been given some extra days around the Christmas holiday, and to remind us you have to take all of your leave before the end of the year. Are you doing something like this, or other approaches?
Yes, it starts by communication. We have drafted a policy of digital disconnection as well, sharing not just the benefits, but the necessity of making a clear separation. We are transmitting that to the managers, so they can also they avoid obliging people, or even they avoid sending email at some hours. It's very difficult when you work in a global company where you have colleagues in all the continents, to tell the truth. So I understand that it's not done on purpose, but we are letting them understand, or be aware at least, that this can cause a more harm than good in the short term, but in the long term, quite a lot of harm to their own teams. So it comes by this, I mean, conveying saying this, making a policy, communicating on this, also the possibility, giving them or encouraging them to give some extra days. Why not? A few hours to compensate this extra time, because once you are working, you know how it is. It's very difficult to say, hey, I stop here. So perhaps there is other ways to find a balance. So we're encouraging them to give extra days without any problem. We outside the holidays policy, things like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Carmen. Geir, from Norwegian Refugee Council, what are some examples of deploying technology or accelerating the deployment of technology to help both in the pandemic, but also just in general to make life better for your workforce?
Oh, thank you. And I think there's almost no end to the new uses of technology to support us in this situation. Some of them have been mentioned, and of course, you know, I don't know by luck or by chance or by planning, I don't know, but in February 2020, we had just rolled out a global corporate solution with Zoom, which of course the use of it just skyrocketed, and what we are doing on Zoom is just incredible. So examples, we are delivering mental health training and counseling to our staff over Zoom and all the platforms. All our training is on Zoom. We're delivering all project management, everything on over Zoom. So clearly the digital communication platforms have been all important to us, and yeah, but that's been covered well. We have made use of an app-based physical exercise thing, which has been hugely popular and really is a key element to enable our people to manage the mental health aspects also. And I should also say really that I think the most successful managers have been those that have sort of been able to step up, use technology, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Oracle, whether it's whatever, to actually escalate the connection with their own staff. We have had managers to actually travel home to staff to do their performance management talks while they're walking. So in terms of technology, I think there's just no end to what the possibilities are, and we've only just seen the beginning of it. I do think.
You know, it's interesting. There was a question in the Q&A. Well, it wasn't a question actually. It was a statement from somebody saying, "I work in a sales organization. Nothing has changed in the sense that there's still the pressure of performance, of pipeline, and all this stuff. And I have yet to get a call, despite all the good words about taking care of people in my company, I have yet to get a call from my manager asking me, how are you?" Which is unfortunate, but I think is probably more normal than not in a lot of organizations. I liked something that Carmen said earlier, which is technology on its own is not a solution. It's how you deploy it. One of the things I love to tell people about our own HR technology is the same thing. If you don't use it in a certain way, you're not going to solve everything. It's just going to sit there. And one of the things that I love is, you know, the employee directory, which is such a very boring concept, can actually be one of the most powerful tools. And I just wanted to address that question in the Q&A.
Can I just comment on that, because I think one of the best things that we've done, most successful things is that we've used our platforms. Oracle is one, but Zoom was the other, to bring the organization together and actually reach out to managers and remind them, you know, step up, keep in contact. And then we've ran polls with our staff to see how do you perceive it. Does your manager reach out to you? And we have been able to very sort of accurately focused, be able to pinpoint, you know, which staff member needs extra attention and follow up on that.
No, and I think this is your organization is lucky that they have a sense of empathy like the one you just described. I was going to say that the employee directory is powerful because it has secrets that are easy to access. For instance, everyone's birthday. We call it date of birth. The other way to say that is birthday. And if you know everyone's birthday, you can wish them happy birthday. Everyone likes to be acknowledged on their birthday. So it's these small things that you can leverage technology to set an alert. Especially for your least empathetic managers, they get a little nudge, an email or a text that says, don't forget to wish this employee happy birthday. Before I move to Thijs, Geir, there was a question in the Q&A asking you, what is the app that Norwegian G Council uses for physical fitness? I think you were mentioning something about physical fitness and they wanted to know if there was an app you're using.
Yes, there is a Norwegian-based, I can share it in there, but there's a Norwegian-based company called DYT, which offers a sort of a step competition where we travel around the world as we walk our steps. So that's been, we mobilized our head office and our European-based offices on that app. And then there is we have a small but growing sort of NRC club on Strava, where we share exercises and compete. Yeah, so that's really those two.
So I have made a sworn promise to all of my colleagues that I will not talk about Oracle products in our panel discussion, but one of the things that we are very excited about is there's an element of our HR platform which has to do with competitions and gamification between employees, where you can upload data from Strava, from Fitbit, from wherever, and have those competitions show up in the HR dashboard and attached to people's profiles if you wanted. But thank you for sharing that name of the app. If you don't mind writing it in the chat, Geir, I think then it will be easier for everyone to find it. Thijs, let me come to you. So at Vodafone Ziggo, if you can share with us, how are you leveraging technology to take care of your people?
I will gladly tell something about that. I think another app that you could use and is widely used in Europe at least, it's Virgin Pulse.
Yes.
Okay. Virgin Pulse is one of the apps that we have used in some departments. We use that in several departments, and in others we had our apps. One of the apps that you could use. So we had a lot of it was already in place. Of the technology, we already had platforms where you could work together. Of course, almost everybody already had a laptop and those sort of things. So communication was already guaranteed. What we found is that we needed some way of working, especially when people are going to work more from home. So a way of working, for example, that if you are in a meeting and two people are at the office, those two people should not be sitting together. So yes, we leveraged the existing technology that we already had, but we also had some guiding rules, some guiding principles, how to use it. And I think that that's very important to do. So we use Teams, we use Pulse surveys to check how everybody is, and we communicated that. We used our television narrowcasting possibilities to get in touch with people and to stay in touch with people. And we had numerous of webinars to tell people about the business, but also go into their concerns and tell them what we were doing to address this COVID situation in our organization.
Thank you, Thijs. And maybe one question, and I won't point to anyone in particular, you can just raise your hand or start talking. We had a good question in the Q&A that I didn't think of myself. Has there been any role in your organization that you have either created in response to the pandemic or where that role has a sudden new prominence? In other words, has a role that seemed every day become essential? Or is there a new role you had to create in response to how you're taking care of your people?
If I can speak for Vodafone Ziggo, it's not so much a role, but we have set up a response team to make sure that all the information we send out is being sent out in a uniform way. So there's no conflicting messages. And of course, health and safety, that part of the organization that's also involved in well-being, that suddenly became much more important and much more prominent in the communication, together with our communications department and culture. Those two things really gained importance during this pandemic. And we created a special response team to really make sure that all the information is uniform and that there was no lie between different messages.
Thank you, Thijs. And by the way, one of the audience members was asking if you can post in the chat the name of the app that you were describing earlier as well. and any of you have created a new role or sort of promoted a new role within the organization or an existing role in response to the pandemic? Is there something that's become more prominent?
Well, if I can respond, yes, I not created a new role, but assigned new tasks to some people in the admin side, and like kind of. Well, a person to coordinate all the measures that we've implemented in the office, and to check that everybody is respecting the distancing rules, etc. So kind of police, gentle police inside the office. But I would say that overall, I have the impression that HR has acquired a prominent role because it's linked to safety, of course, and to the well-being of the employees, and many managers have naturally come to us to tell us, I mean, to have some tips to coordinate this work, to have some I don't know, some tools that can help us manage these teams remotely. Most of them have done right and with common sense, and it's okay. But there's some situations a bit more sensitive, perhaps, that where they needed some kind of support. This added to the fact that we needed to reorganize some kind of return, but maintain also people working outside the office. I mean, to organize the whole stuff. Honestly, I have the impression that, and all the communication we've sent to inform about the situation of the pandemic, if there was some cases tested positive and things like that, and how to address, and all the initiatives we have had aside. I mean, as part also of the funny part to maintain people engaged and happy to connect. So I think HR has acquired like a bit more importance in some parts. Yeah. Thanks,
Carmen. Geir, any thoughts from you on this?
I was just going to support Thijs in that we've really shifted around a lot of responsibilities, relieved people of some duties to focus on COVID-19. And we have established COVID-19 task forces, as we say, led by HR in many of our locations. So it's that kind of reshuffling that's been done.
Well, look, I want to thank all four of you very, very much. I personally have learned a lot. I've been scribbling lots of things that I've learned here. I hope that you enjoyed sharing all of the hard work and thinking that you've been doing in your organizations. It's at the same time, I think your roles have become even more prominent than they were before. It is very similar to the reaction that we've had in a lot of parts of the world to the person who works in the grocery store, the person who is working for the municipality. All these core, what we used to think were basic functions, are essential functions. And a lot of governments, I think, are recognizing that and respecting that. And I will venture to say that HR is also one of those functions that has always been in the background and is now very much at the forefront. So thank you for your leadership in your own organizations and your leadership in this event, and to share with our audience. We had at one point over 250 people listening to you. So very, very grateful for your participation. Thank you very much to all four of you, Carmen, Geir, Jackie, and Thijs.